Hello, welcome to Meet the Author, sponsored by the Author Event Network in partnership with the Bremerton Public Access Television. I'm your host, Guy Morris. Author Event Network is a nonprofit association of local authors who sign books at local festivals, fairs, and events. Our guest today is Keith Madsen. Hey Keith, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Great to have you back.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
We were talking earlier. I'm digging your granddad, your tie dye here. We're bringing back the '60s with our own style.
That's right. If my daughter got this for me, if I didn't have my daughter or my wife to buy clothes for me, I would be going naked, and I couldn't appear on this show. So.
Okay. Well, we're very grateful. We're very grateful.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to start for the audience who hadn't seen you before. Maybe I introduced you. I want to make sure we're covering some basics. So let's start with what inspired you to become an author.
You know, I dreamed of being an author since my teenage years. Mm-hmm. When I read different novels in English class and really get into the Mark Twain and others, and I really thought, well, golly, could I do that? But I really didn't have the confidence, and I didn't really start writing them until, my later adult years. So, but what inspired me really was the authors that I read. I think that an author that does not read really doesn't know how to write well, because they haven't been able to look at what else is happening. Yeah. And the reading inspires me. And, whenever there was a story on television or a movie or whatever, I would go to sleep at night as a teenager, and I would suddenly become the star of that, and I would kind of invent the story from my perspective as this new character.
Yeah.
And, of course, it always had to do with me winning the girl.
Of course,
it had to.
Of course, we're not going to play that dunce guy, because that's what we play at school.
That's right. That's right.
We don't want to double up. You got to diversify.
That's right. That's what really inspired me to become an author. Just using my imagination.
Excellent, excellent. Well, that's amazing, and I know that a lot of kids. I hear a lot of authors that say that the spark in them started as children. In that ability to enjoy that somebody could tell a story and engage you in that story to the point where you really want it to be, you could see yourself as a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me it was Swiss Family Robinson.
Oh.
That was the one that, but I didn't get a chance as a kid to read a lot of books, but it's not about me. So
mine's closest would be Robinson Crusoe.
Yeah, both the same genre of islands and treasures and people and no teachers.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
No rule books. So tell us about the titles you've written and why you've titled them that way and how they might be connected.
Okay, The Sons and Daughters of Toussaint. A lot of people don't realize the importance of Toussaint Louverture to history. William Wordsworth, a great English poet, thought he was the greatest leader, inspirational character of his time. And he said, the winds will be able to speak of your greatness, and people will never forget. And your greatest allies will be love and man's incomparable mind. And that's what he said about Toussaint. But Toussaint was captured by Napoleon and kind of sent off to a castle in France in order to die of exposure. But the vision he had inspired really the whole world. And now we think about who are the sons and daughters of Toussaint. They are the Haitian people. And some people, some political leaders refer to them as scum and no goods and other words that I won't want to use here.
Those leaders are just projecting on themselves.
Yeah. And really, you need to think of them, I think of them as the sons and daughters of Toussaint, to reclaim that vision.
Yeah, that heritage.
That heritage that Toussaint started. Yeah. So that's what this novel's about. Searching for Eden. Eden is the story of the Garden of Eden is a foundational story for humankind. I mean, it's not just important for Christians and Jews, but
Islam as well.
Yeah, Islam as well.
So,
and it's the story of the fact that there was a point in time when life was very good. Now, in this book, a man loses his daughter, 14-year-old daughter, to cancer. And when I'm a hospital chaplain, and I know that's a terrible blow for a person to go through. And the question becomes, can you ever feel that life can be good again after losing someone like that? Can you ever find if life can be good again? And the thing about this, Evan Jordan, who is the main character in this story, he has the courage to go out and see if he can confront his own fears, his own loss, his own darkness.
Yeah.
At the same time, he goes and he faces the fears that one would have going into where Eden would have been, which would have been Iran, and Iraq, and Syria.
Middle East, right?
Those areas. Far from Eden right now, but that's the story. Searching for Eden is searching for the goodness of life again. And so it is both an action thriller, but also a deep psychological personal exploration. So that's the Searching for Eden.
Okay.
Fallen Angels. These are about homeless people that I had. They're inspired by homeless people that I, as a pastor, I was a church pastor for 42 years in Portland, and I was a liaison to the feeding program, to feeding the homeless.
Okay.
And so I met people, and I'd sit with them and I'd talk with them. I'd listen to them, really, more than talking to them. I'd listen to them and tell their stories. And they are fascinating stories. But I got the title Fallen Angels because of the passage from Psalms 8, where it says that you have made humanity a little lower than the angels, full of glory and honor. And that's not just the business people, that's not just the white people, that's people.
Yeah.
Every homeless person that you see on the street was created by God to be a little lower than the angels. And these are fallen angels, people who had a potential, and something happened. Something happened. And you know, there's the old saying, there but for the grace of God go I.
Oh, yeah.
And so with a lot of these people, something happened that if it happened to other people other than themselves, probably would have resulted in the same thing, you know? The same kind of tough time, but the question is, can a fallen angel rise again? And that's what these stories are about.
Love it, love it.
Stories of hope. I like to write stories of hope.
Yeah.
American Heresies is my nonfiction book.
Okay.
And I was a pastor for 42 years, and I'm now a hospital chaplain. So I have invested in my life in the Christian faith and in serving through the Christian faith. I always say that I'm in service, not in sales.
That's the right approach. That's the right approach.
I'm not trying to sell the Christian faith to anybody. I feel that
right.
Christ has called me to service.
Yeah.
And when I see, quite frankly, what Donald Trump is doing and his followers to the Christian faith and mutating it into what it was not supposed to be, what Christ did not make it from the start, mutating it into a political tool, it enrages me. So I use about 100 different scriptures along with quotes from many Christian leaders to talk about why this is nothing less than heresy. Now, I hesitated to use the word heresy in the title because my background is that, you know, I've been in churches where, you know, they'd call Catholicism heresy and this heresy, and you study back in history, and
we're very loose with terms in our culture, but I understand exactly what you mean. I actually agree with everything you're saying, and I have a background in faith and study biblical studies myself, and have some religious feelings myself, and I've seen the same thing. And it's not just Trump, but you can look at some of the the Bill the Olsteins and the guy there's several of them.
Prosperity gospel
All
people.
the prosperity gospels and the guys that own jets and mansions, and the White House advisor Paula White, and they're even Franklin Graham at this point, unfortunately.
Franklin Graham has besmirched the memory of his father. I
Yeah.
love Billy Graham.
Yeah.
And he has really smeared the image of his own father,
But they've
as well as the image of
introduced
Christ.
so many apostate heresies and false god doctrines and false idols and false prophets into the Christian culture that for many people it's polluted everything Christian for them entirely.
Absolutely.
Just as fascism did and Nazis did in Germany in World War II, which is what makes them so agnostic today.
Absolutely.
And they're doing that in America today. So it's going to kill the faith of millions.
Like you say, it's not just Trump, it's the prosperity God, but it's also the Christian nationalists. And there is a very frightening movement in our country today of Christian nationalist churches that are really threatening violence.
Well, and I've termed the Project 2025 as an apostate manifesto, an apostate fascist manifesto. But that's what. So we're seeing this in America today. We're seeing the effects of it in terms of how it's changing the world's view of America. It's seeing the effects of our policies, and I think that there's a lot of power in what you're saying in that book. And your experience as a pastor makes you careful with the terms. I've never been a pastor. I've always been blunt with the terms, which is why my mouth gets me into trouble more than it helps people. But
mine's got me into trouble before.
I tend to be a lot more blunt with my terms, and not very Christian at times either. So let's consider as a whole then. So let's kind of take the holistic, a very broad variety, and I love that diversity in your writing style and in the topics you choose to write about and how you approach your fiction and nonfiction. What do you consider the key themes that your readers will discover across all of these books?
Hope.
Oh, wow, love it.
Hope.
Okay.
My books deal with some tough subjects. Losing a child to cancer. Gosh, that's a pretty tough subject. And some people want to, instead of, looking at that, they want to flee to fantasy. And I don't do that, but rather I put the reality there and then bring in the hope that is real. It's not a fantasy. There's a difference between having a dream and having a fantasy.
Yeah.
If you have a dream, like Martin Luther King, you're working for it.
Yeah.
If you're having a fantasy, you're off in la la land.
Yeah.
And just wanting to escape.
You're unplugging.
Yeah.
You're disconnecting.
So that's what I try to bring in, is the hope that, Margaret Mead said that never doubt that a small committed group of committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has.
Yeah.
And that's what hope is about too. People say, well, it's God, it's just God. Well, it's God working through people. And people who have been given that vision of something better. Was it Bobby Kennedy? Some people see things that are and ask why, and I see things that never were and ask why not.
Yeah.
Seeing the vision of hope. That's what I try to bring out.
Yeah, that's a really good theme, and I think that will resonate with a lot of people, right? Because I think there's I deal with thrillers as well, as you know. I think we deal with some of the same sorts of human issues, but your ability to kind of find that hope, that positive side, I think is a remarkable and admirable, honorable, and I think attractive feature for your books. So. Who are your favorite authors, and how have they influenced you? You mentioned Mark Twain.
Yeah, Mark Twain is certainly one.
Yeah, I love his folksy style.
I love Mark Twain, and I wasn't going to say this, but in Huckleberry Finn, when he goes down the river with Jim, and they become friends.
Yeah.
And he has been taught by his Christian religion that he has committed a great sin that's going to send him to hell. And, after he really gets close to Jim and seeing what a great guy he was, he says, okay, if I'm going to hell, I'm going to hell.
Yeah.
I'm not giving up my friendship with Jim. If I'm going to hell for it, I'm going to hell. I thought that was so touching, so powerful.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to talk about that, but let's see, what was the question again?
Well, who are your favorite authors?
Oh, favorite author. Pat Conroy is one. Why Pat Conroy? Pat Conroy just showed me the power of language. He had tremendous power of language. And his closing for the great Santini, his closing words, just inspired me and showed me the importance of a closing that touches the heart. So, Pat Conroy, the great Santini, the Secret Life of Bees, and what was it, Wings? I can't remember what the other one was. Now the names escape me.
I have that same database problem myself. I don't know what it is, but the data just doesn't load.
Sue Kidd, I think that's her name. Yeah, and The Invention of Wings. That's the other.
Okay.
That's the other title. To be able to, people again say that if you really want to sell books, you get into fantasy and you don't get into anything controversial. And Sue Monk Kidd, she got into the controversial and sold books.
Yeah.
And was able to develop great stories around things that touched people, especially in regard to things like slavery and racial issues. And so that to me was saying, hey, we can do this.
Yeah.
We don't have to avoid these. One thought you avoid entirely anything that has any political controversy, but we can get into these things and still have books that people find appealing.
Yeah. Well, I think fantasy certainly popular. It's certainly a very popular genre right now.
Yeah,
Whether that will continue, we don't know. They're trends, but I point to books that deal with the reality of the situation. They fictionalize it for certain, but they're dealing with reality. Tolstoy, is a classic. We read it. Even though it's a difficult read, it's not an easy, fun read. It's doesn't have the literary lilt and skipping that we get in modern literature. But it's powerful because it's real. It deals with real lives, real changes, real transformations in society that we go through. It connects us with those historical norms.
And Victor Hugo.
You're Victor Hugo. You like Mark Twain because he connected us with that historical reality.
Yeah.
It wasn't a fantasy. I think that Da Vinci Code was so popular because it connected us with real facts and real history, things that are connected, even though some of it wasn't plausible and some of it was made up. He took a lot of that and brought it back to us to say, here's the controversies that we try to avoid. And I think that there's a power in doing that because while some people, there is a lot of people that do want to escape, and when you talk about anything modern in your books, there are some readers that go, no, I'm already deeply afraid. But it's dealing with those things in literature that can transform people in their reality in the here and now.
And one thing to say in defense of fantasy, because I've kind of put down fantasy, but really fantasy can also be used to project realities and truths.
Absolutely.
Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland was a political commentary on the time.
Oh yeah.
And
very, very well done.
And I keep thinking of that song that says, "One pill makes you taller, makes you small. And the ones that Mama gives you don't do anything at all."
We don't realize how much cocaine, opium, psychedelics were popular in the 19th century England. Didn't just show up in the post-World War II America. They were popular 150 years ago, 200 years ago. So it was dealing with the reality of their political situation, but also that cultural norm as well.
Yeah, I think that the great fantasies have dealt with that, have dealt with things that really have long-term truth to them. If you get The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, C.S. Lewis is another one. You know, to be able to speak the truth by, you know, coming through the back door in a sense, and starting with a fantasy that becomes real as you think, wait a minute, that's like today.
Yeah. Well, let's move on. So, as a writer, what about your books appeals to your female audience in your view? Sometimes it's difficult for a male writer because, you know, women, you know, are the predominant readers of literature, and you know, sometimes they want to have female readers. But I believe, first of all, in writing strong women, because I think that that's very important. Yep.
I think that, and I think of one of the characters that I wrote, and her name's Marie Noel in the Sons and Daughters of Toussaint. And Marie Noel, you know, sometimes when you got to have a strong woman who she's always strong and she's always in charge of things. I don't think people develop that way.
Yeah.
They develop into strong people, whether it's male or female. So Marie Noel in the Sons and Daughters of Toussaint starts out. People would think she's a little narcissistic, you know. She's beautiful. She's gorgeous. And she wants to go and become a model in New York City, a famous model. And then I think she starts to grapple with the question, you know, that sometimes beautiful women grapple with. I know I'm beautiful. What else am I?
Yeah. Is that all I am?
What else am I? Is there anything else to me?
Yeah.
And so I think that happens with Marie Noel in this novel, and she becomes extremely wounded physically. And in her physical wounds, she starts to see her inner strength. And she becomes a symbol for the wounds of Haiti. And it helps her to become a strong female leader.
Excellent.
So that's part, I think, of what I seek to do. She's not the only one that I put in that category, but to have a strong female leader, a woman. Now, I think romance is also important to a lot of female readers. I don't write books that are primarily romances, but I write books where romance plays a role within the story.
Yeah.
Because it does in life.
It does in life. Every major character has that aspect of their life that influences them, or the absence of it influences them.
What would Les Miserables be without the romances that occur between the Cosette and all the other characters? I think that's part of the story.
Okay. Well, Keith, we have time for about one more question. And I want to go to, you mentioned a few times that you were a pastor and a chaplain.
Yeah.
And how do you see your role of spirituality in your books, and not necessarily being religious or evangelical, but how, we got a couple more minutes, how would you kind of see that role and how you want to leave your audience?
Yeah, that's important. I am a chaplain at a hospital, and I go to visit patients, and quite frequently, not just once or twice, quite frequently I go to a patient and they say, well, I'm not religious. And then they'll say things like, well, I do believe in God. And then they'll talk about all the Bible verses they studied, you know, probably more so than somebody who thought themselves as being religious. And we find out that there's a lot of people who have been burned by the church. It's not a matter of not being spiritual, it's a matter of not having been burned by the church. And I have one patient that told me, I equate organized religion with organized crime. That's a pretty powerful statement.
Yeah.
So there's that. But plus, finding the commonality between different spiritualities, I think is important. And for instance, in my book, Searching for Eden, they don't just, it's not just, the main character isn't even sure he's a Christian at first. He was a Methodist, but he'd kind of gone away from that. And, but he encounters people like Islamic believers, and they have so many common beliefs that he's surprised by that, but it helps him to kind of conceptualize his own ideas. And then there's some Christian believers in Iran who are descended from one of the oldest heresies in Christianity, and had been there since the 3rd or 4th century, but were declared heretical, but still are there. And they're still doing the work of Christ.
Same thing in Ethiopia.
And so we have different spiritualities. And I think the way we deal with that is learning to listen to them. And in Searching for Eden particularly, they learn to listen to each other.
Learn to listen.
In the midst of that.
So learning to listen and hope.
To learn to listen and to hope and to find that you find your truth by listening and by connecting with others in love.
Powerful stuff. Powerful stuff. Thank you, Keith. I appreciate you coming back.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity.
And thank you for watching Meet the Author. Come to meet all the AEN authors during the summer season in Seattle and Portland, and keep on reading.